Office Revenge Hub welcomes you. Enjoy today's story.
I thought I'd built something that couldn't be taken away from me. I was wrong. They stripped me of everything I'd created, everything I'd sacrificed for, and left me with nothing but a cardboard box and a security escort. But what they didn't know was that taking everything from me was the biggest mistake they'd ever make. My name is Marcus Chen, and for 12 years I was the Director of Product in Innovation at Meridian Technologies. I wasn't just an employee, I was the architect behind their most profitable division. When I started there in my late 20s, Meridian was a mid-tier software company struggling to compete with giants like Oracle and Salesforce. I was employee number 47. By the time my story takes its turn, we had over 2,000 employees across 6 countries. I didn't just work there. I bled for that company. 80-hour weeks were normal. Weekends were suggestions. Holidays were just quieter days at the office. My wife Sarah used to joke that she was married to a ghost who occasionally appeared at the dinner table before vanishing back into his laptop. She stopped joking about it around year 7. By year 10, she stopped waiting up. I led the team that developed CloudSync Pro, the enterprise cloud management platform that took Meridian from $30 million in annual revenue to $300 million in just 4 years. I personally coded the first prototype in my garage over a Christmas break. I pitched it to the board myself. I assembled the development team. I negotiated our first major contract with a Fortune 500 client. The CEO back then, Richard Morrison, was a good man. He understood loyalty. He understood that innovation came from people, not just quarterly projections. He gave me equity, autonomy, and respect. When CloudSync Pro launched, he stood on stage at our company conference and told 300 employees that I was the future of Meridian. I still have the crystal plaque they gave me. It sits in a box somewhere now, but I kept it. Richard retired 2 years ago. That's when everything started to change. His replacement was brought in from outside. Victoria Ashford, 42 years old, Harvard MBA, previously VP of Operations at a private equity firm that specialized in what they called operational optimization, which really meant buying companies, gutting them, and selling the pieces for profit. So the board thought she was exactly what Meridian needed to scale to the next level. I should have seen the warning signs immediately. In her first week, Victoria called an all-hands meeting and talked for 90 minutes about efficiency metrics, resource allocation, and eliminating redundancy. She used the word synergy 17 times. I counted. She never once mentioned innovation, creativity, or the products that actually made our company money. She brought in her own people. First it was a new CFO, then a VP of Operations, then a Chief Strategy Officer, which was a position we'd never had before. All of them came from the same world she did, the world of spreadsheets and shareholder value and quarterly earnings calls. None of them had ever built anything. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. I really did. I scheduled a meeting with her in her 3rd week to walk her through CloudSync Pro's roadmap. I'd spent months developing our next phase, a machine learning integration that would revolutionize how enterprises manage their cloud infrastructure. The preliminary models were showing incredible promise. This wasn't just an upgrade. This was going to redefine the industry. Victoria listened for about 10 minutes before interrupting me. Marcus, I appreciate your passion, but I need you to understand something. We're not here to redefine industries. We're here to maximize returns. Your ML project has an 18-month development timeline and requires an investment of $12 million with uncertain ROI. That's not efficient resource allocation. I tried to explain that innovation requires investment, when that CloudSync Pro itself had taken 2 years to develop before it started generating revenue. She smiled the way you smile at a child who doesn't understand why they can't have candy for dinner. That was then, she said. This is now. We need to focus on extracting maximum value from existing products, not gambling on speculative R&D. I'm reprioritizing your team's focus to cloud sync, pro feature enhancements, and customer retention initiatives. She killed my project that day. 12 months of work gone with a stroke of her pen. But I was still director of product innovation. I still had my team, my division, my equity. I thought if I just proved the value of continued innovation, she'd come around. I thought I could show her that playing it safe was how companies died. I was naive. Over the next 6 months, Victoria systematically dismantled everything Richard had built. She eliminated our annual innovation summit. She cut the R&D budget by 60%. She instituted mandatory daily status reports that took 2 hours to compile. She hired management consultants who spent 3 months analyzing our workflows and then recommended we reduce headcount by 20% to improve margins. My team started to fracture. Good people left. The best engineer I'd ever worked with, a woman named Jennifer, who'd been with me since CloudSync Pro's inception, quit after Victoria denied her request for additional developers. I didn't get into this field to maintain legacy code, Jennifer told me on her last day. I got into it to build things that matter. I'm sorry, Marcus, but this place isn't that anymore. I watched person after person walk out the door, and I couldn't even blame them. Then came the reorganization. Victoria called me into her office on a Thursday afternoon. Her corner office was pristine, decorated with abstract art and leadership books she'd probably never read. She was sitting behind her desk with Brandon Pierce, her new chief strategy officer. Brandon was 34, wore expensive suits, and spoke entirely in corporate jargon. I'd never seen him write a single line of code or contribute a single original idea, but somehow he'd become Victoria's most trusted advisor. Marcus, thank you for coming, Victoria said. We need to discuss the future structure of the product division. I sat down. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. We've been analyzing organizational efficiency, Brandon said, pulling up a presentation on the large monitor behind Victoria's desk. And we've identified significant redundancy in leadership roles. We're implementing a flatter structure that will eliminate middle management bloat and create more streamlined reporting lines. I watched as he clicked through slides showing org charts with boxes and arrows. My name appeared on one slide, then disappeared on the next. We're eliminating the Director of Product Innovation role, Victoria said. Going forward, product development will report directly to Brandon as part of the Strategic Operations Division. We're consolidating teams and refocusing on core competencies. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. You're firing me. We're eliminating a redundant position, Victoria corrected. However, we do value your technical expertise and your institutional knowledge. We'd like to offer you a position as Senior Product Manager, reporting to Brandon. It comes with adjusted compensation reflecting the reduced scope of responsibility, but it allows you to continue contributing to Meridian's success. Adjusted compensation. They were cutting my salary by 40%. And I'd be reporting to Brandon, a man who thought innovation meant adding new colors to our user interface. This is my division, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I built CloudSync Pro from nothing. I hired most of the team. I landed our biggest clients. You can't just eliminate me. We're not eliminating you, Brandon said with a condescending smile. We're right-sizing your role to match current operational needs. This is an opportunity for you to focus on what you do best, the technical work, without the burden of administrative responsibilities. This is insane, I said, looking at Victoria. CloudSync Pro generates 70% of this company's revenue. I created that. I led that. And you're demoting me to make room for someone who doesn't know the difference between an API and an IPO? Victoria's expression hardened. I understand you're emotional, Marcus. That's natural. But this decision has been made. You have until Monday to decide whether you're accepting the senior PM role or pursuing opportunities elsewhere. If you choose to leave, we'll provide a standard severance package. Standard severance. After 12 years after building their most successful product, but they were offering me standard severance. I left her office in a daze. I walked past my team, past the conference room where we'd celebrated CloudSync Pro's launch, past the innovation lab that was now being converted into additional cubicle space. I went to my own office, closed the door, and sat in the dark. I called Sarah. I told her what happened. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Maybe it's a sign, she finally said. You've been killing yourself for that place for over a decade, Marcus. Maybe this is your chance to find something that doesn't consume your entire life. But she didn't understand. Meridian wasn't just a job. It was my identity. I'd poured everything I had into that company, and now they were throwing me away like I was nothing. I didn't sleep that weekend. Like I went through every possible scenario. I could take the demotion, swallow my pride, keep collecting a paycheck while I figured out what to do next. But the thought of reporting to Brandon, of watching him take credit for work my team did, of sitting in meetings while Victoria dismantled everything I'd built, it made me physically ill. I could leave, take the severance, try to find something else, but I was 40 years old. I'd spent my entire career at one company. And in the tech world, age discrimination is real even if nobody admits it. Companies want young, cheap talent, not expensive veterans, with mortgages and families. On Sunday night, I made my decision. Monday morning, I walked into Victoria's office and told her I wouldn't be accepting the senior PM position. I'd be leaving Meridian. She looked almost relieved. Now, I think that's the right decision, Marcus. I'll have HR draw up your severance agreement. The severance was a joke. 3 months' salary. Nothing close to what my equity should have been worth if they'd honoured the spirit of my original agreement. But Richard had retired and Victoria's lawyers had found loopholes in the vesting schedule. I'd be getting a fraction of what I'd earned. I had 2 weeks to transition my responsibilities. 2 weeks to watch Brandon stumble through meetings with my team, asking basic questions about products I'd architected. 2 weeks to pack up 12 years of my life into cardboard boxes. My team threw me a farewell lunch on my last day. It was depressing. Everyone knew what was happening, everyone knew it was wrong, but nobody could do anything about it. They had mortgages too. They had families. They needed their jobs. Jennifer flew back from her new position in Seattle to attend. She pulled me aside after lunch. This place is going to collapse without you, she said. Victoria doesn't understand that you can't cut your way to innovation. She's going to run this company into the ground. Then maybe I should stick around to watch, I said, trying to joke. No, Jennifer said seriously. You should build something better and make them regret ever letting you go. On my final day, I packed the last box, took one more look at the office where I'd spent so many hours and walked out. Security escorted me to my car. Standard procedure for departing employees, they said. I'd gone from director to potential security risk in 2 weeks. I drove home in silence. Sarah was waiting with wine and sympathy, but I couldn't talk about it. I went into my home office, closed the door, and sat in the dark. I lost everything. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. I went through the motions, updated my resume, reached out to my network, had coffee meetings with former colleagues who expressed sympathy but couldn't offer positions. The few job opportunities I did find were all significant steps down. Mid-level positions at companies I'd never heard of, making half what I used to make, doing work that felt meaningless. The severance money was running out. Sarah had gone back to work after years of being a stay-at-home mum, taking a position at a marketing firm that paid okay, but nowhere near enough to maintain our lifestyle. We started making cuts, cancelled our vacation, pulled our daughter Emma out of private school, stopped going out to dinner. I felt like a failure. I'd worked my entire adult life to provide for my family, to build something meaningful, and I'd lost it all because some MBA decided I was redundant. I started drinking too much, staying up too late scrolling through Meridian's website, watching Brandon post LinkedIn updates about exciting new strategic initiatives in the product division. He was taking credit for my work, my ideas, my team's innovations, and nobody was calling him out on it. Sarah found me in my office one night at 3 a.m, drunk, staring at my old employee badge. "Marcus, this has to stop," she said. "You're destroying yourself over people who don't deserve a second of your energy. You need to move on." "I don't know how," I admitted. "Everything I built is there, everything I worked for. Yeah, and they just took it." "Then build something new," she said. "You're one of the smartest people I know. You created something from nothing once. You can do it again." She was right, but I didn't have the energy. I was 40 years old, unemployed, running out of savings, and terrified that I'd peaked. Then Jennifer called. "I need you to consult on a project," she said without preamble. "My new company is building enterprise infrastructure automation. It's early stage, but we have funding and we need someone who actually knows what they're doing. 3 months contract to start, good money, potential for equity if things work out." It wasn't what I wanted, but it was something. I took the contract. The work was good, the team was small but talented. Jennifer had landed at a startup called Axiom Systems. They're backed by a venture capital firm that actually understood technology. The founder, David Park, was a former Google engineer who'd gotten frustrated with the bloat and bureaucracy of big tech. He wanted to build tools that made developers' lives easier, not tools that made executives' PowerPoints prettier. I spent 3 months helping them refine their product architecture. It reminded me why I'd gotten into this field in the first place, not for the money or the title, but because I loved building things that solved real problems. At the end of the 3 months, David offered me a full-time position as VP of Product. The salary was less than I'd made at Meridian, but he offered significant equity in a company that actually had potential. More importantly, he offered respect. He valued my experience. He listened to my ideas. I accepted. Working at Axiom felt like stepping back in time to the early days of Meridian, before the bureaucracy and politics. We were 20 people in a cramped office, working insane hours because we wanted to, not because some executive demanded it. We were building something that mattered, and slowly, I started to rebuild myself. I stopped drinking, started exercising, spent more time with Sarah and Emma, remembered what it felt like to be engaged with life instead of just surviving it. But I hadn't forgotten about Meridian. I still checked their news, still watched from a distance as Victoria continued her optimization strategy, and I started to notice cracks. Their stock price had been flat for months, unusual for a company in a growing industry. Customer reviews for Cloud Sync Pro were declining. Check complaints about lack of innovation and poor support response times. LinkedIn showed a steady stream of departures from the product team, people I'd hired and mentored, now fleeing to competitors. Then I saw something interesting. Brandon posted an announcement about a major new Cloud Sync Pro feature, an AI-powered analytics dashboard. I read through the marketing copy and immediately recognized it. This was based on preliminary work my team had done 18 months ago, research we'd abandoned because it wasn't ready for production. I logged into some old developer forums, where Cloud Sync Pro users congregated. The AI dashboard had launched 2 weeks earlier. The reviews were brutal. It was buggy, slow, and inaccurate. When one user called it the worst feature update I've seen from a major vendor in 5 years. Brandon's team had rushed out half-finished work to show Victoria they were innovating, and it was damaging Meridian's reputation. I smiled for the first time in months. They were self-destructing, and I didn't have to do anything but watch. But watching wasn't enough. I wanted to win, not just survive, but actually beat them. That's when I had the idea. At Axiom, we were building infrastructure automation tools. Our primary focus was DevOps and continuous integration pipelines. But the underlying technology, the core platform we were developing, was flexible enough to handle much more. I started thinking about cloud management, about all the frustrations I'd heard from Cloud Sync Pro customers over the years. About the features we'd never built because Victoria had cut our R&D budget, about the machine learning integration she'd killed, the one that could have revolutionized the industry. I went to David with a proposal. What if we built a cloud management platform? Not a clone of Cloud Sync Pro, but something better. Something that learned from Cloud Sync Pro's limitations and solved them. Something that leveraged AI and automation in ways Meridian had been too conservative to attempt. David listened to my entire pitch, asked smart questions, and then said, "How long would it take to build a working prototype?" 6 months if we focus the team on it, I said. But it's risky. We'd be competing directly with Meridian, and they have market dominance. They also have declining innovation and poor customer satisfaction, David countered. And we have something they don't. We have the person who built their product in the first place. If anyone can build something better, it's you. He gave me the green light. We called the project Catalyst. The team was just 6 people, including me and Jennifer. We worked nights and weekends on top of our regular responsibilities. I'd told myself I'd never work those kinds of hours again, but this was different. This wasn't for some corporation that saw me as disposable. This was for us, for something we believed in. I poured everything I knew about cloud management into Catalyst. Every lesson learned from Cloud Sync Pro's development, every feature request customers had made over the years, every innovative idea Victoria had killed, the machine learning integration I'd wanted to build at Meridian. It became Catalyst's core differentiator. Automated resource optimization that actually worked, predictive analytics that helped companies prevent problems before they happened, a user interface that was intuitive instead of requiring 3-day training courses. 5 months in, we had a working prototype. It was rough, but it was functional. More importantly, it was demonstrably better than Cloud Sync Pro in key areas. David took it to Axiom's board. They authorized a $5 million investment to turn the prototype into a commercial product. We hired a small sales team, built out our marketing, and prepared for launch. I thought about reaching out to my old clients at Meridian, the ones I'd personally brought on board, the ones who trusted me. But that felt too aggressive, too much like poaching. I wanted to win clean, so instead, we launched Catalyst publicly and let the product speak for itself. The tech press noticed immediately. Reviews called it the Cloud Sync Pro Killer and the most innovative cloud management platform in years. Early adopters praised its ease of use and advanced features. Industry analysts started comparing it favorably to products from companies 10 times our size, and then the enterprise clients started calling. First, it was smaller companies, the ones who couldn't afford Cloud Sync Pro's enterprise pricing. But then we started getting inquiries from larger organizations. Companies using Cloud Sync Pro who were frustrated with stagnant development and poor support. One of those companies was North Star Financial, a Fortune 500 bank. They'd been a CloudSync Pro customer for 3 years. I'd personally managed their account at Meridian. So their CTO, a woman named Amanda Reeves, called me directly. Marcus, I heard you were behind Catalyst, she said. I need to know if it's real or if it's just good marketing. It's real, I told her, and I'd be happy to walk you through a demo. We set up a meeting. I flew to their headquarters in Charlotte with Jennifer and gave a presentation to Amanda's entire IT leadership team. We showed them everything: the AI-powered optimization, the predictive analytics, the seamless integration capabilities, the cost projections showing 30% savings over CloudSync Pro. Amanda asked tough questions. I gave honest answers. When she pointed out limitations in our current feature set, I didn't deflect. I acknowledged them and explained our roadmap for addressing them. At the end of the meeting, she thanked us for our time and said they'd be in touch. 2 weeks later, North Star Financial announced they were switching from CloudSync Pro to Catalyst. It was a $4 million annual contract, the largest deal Axiom had ever closed. The industry took notice. If a major bank trusted Catalyst enough to switch from an established platform, other companies started thinking maybe they should take a look too. More clients followed. Some were new to cloud management platforms. Others were CloudSync Pro customers looking for something better. Each win validated what we'd built, proved that innovation mattered more than market dominance, and each win put more pressure on Meridian. I started hearing through my network that Victoria was panicking. CloudSync Pro's renewal rates were dropping. Sales were missing targets. The board was asking hard questions about why this tiny startup was stealing their customers. She called an emergency meeting with the product team, which still included some of my former colleagues. They told me later that she'd screamed at them for letting a competitor outpace their innovation. Brandon, her golden boy, had sat there taking notes and promising to implement aggressive development acceleration initiatives. Translation: he had no idea how to fix the problem. Victoria tried to fight back. Meridian dropped their prices to compete with Catalyst. They announced a major CloudSync Pro update with AI features, though anyone who actually looked at the details could tell it was mostly vaporware. They launched a PR campaign emphasizing their market leadership and reliability. None of it worked. You can't fake innovation. You can't market your way out of having an inferior product. 6 months after Catalyst's launch, we'd captured 12% of the cloud management platform market. For a startup in our first year, that was unprecedented. Axiom's valuation tripled. David was fielding acquisition offers from major tech companies, though he had no intention of selling, and Meridian's stock price had dropped 20%. I got a call from an old colleague still at Meridian, a guy named Tom, who'd worked on my team for 6 years. "Marcus, you need to know what's happening here," he said. "It's a bloodbath. Victoria just announced layoffs, 20% of the company. The entire customer success team got gutted. Brandon is gone, quietly let go last week. She's trying to blame everyone else for the mess. But the board knows the truth." "The truth?" I asked. "That she destroyed this company. That she drove away the one person who actually knew how to build products people wanted. That she chose short-term profits over long-term innovation, and now we're paying the price." He paused. "There's a board meeting next month. I've heard rumors they're considering a leadership change." A leadership change. Victoria might actually get fired. The thought should have made me happy, but instead I felt oddly empty. I'd gotten my revenge. Catalyst was succeeding beyond my wildest expectations. Meridian was suffering because they'd chosen the wrong path. Victoria's strategy had failed, but it didn't feel the way I thought it would. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. Sarah noticed. "You've been quiet lately," she said one evening. "This is what you wanted. right? For them to regret letting you go? I thought it was, I admitted. But now that it's happening, I realize I don't actually care about them anymore. I care about what we're building. I care about doing good work with people who respect that work. The revenge part, it's just noise. She smiled. That's growth, Marcus. You're not doing this to hurt them. You're doing it because it's what you were meant to do. She was right. Somewhere along the way, my motivation had shifted. Catalyst stopped being about proving Victoria wrong and started being about building something meaningful. The revenge was just a side effect. The board meeting happened. Victoria was asked to step down. The announcement came through LinkedIn first, as these things often do. Victoria Ashford is leaving Meridian Technologies to pursue other opportunities. The board thanks her for her service and wishes her well in future endeavours. Corporate speak for she got fired. The interim CEO was John Hastings, one of the original board members who'd been there during Richard's tenure. I knew John. He'd always supported my work. 2 days after Victoria's departure, he called me. Marcus, I won't waste your time with pleasantries, he said. The board made a mistake letting you go. Victoria made a mistake. The company has suffered for it. I'm calling to ask if you'd consider coming back to Meridian as Chief Product Officer. Full equity restoration, significant salary increase, complete authority over the product division and a board seat. It was everything I'd lost and more, complete vindication, a triumphant return. I didn't even have to think about my answer. John, I appreciate the offer, I said. Truly, but I'm not interested in coming back. I have something good here, something I believe in. Meridian had its chance with me and the company chose differently. I've moved on. There was a long silence. I understand, he finally said. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for what happened. You deserved better. Thank you, I said. And John, for what it's worth, I hope you can turn things around. The people still there, my old team, they deserve better too. After we hung up, I sat in my office for a while, thinking about the path that had brought me here. A year ago, I'd been broken, unemployed, convinced my career was over. Now I was turning down my old job because I had something better. Now I called David and told him about the offer. Should I be worried you're leaving? He joked. Not a chance, I said, but I think we should talk about expansion. If Meridian is rudderless right now, that's our opportunity to accelerate. We should be going after their enterprise customers aggressively. Now you're thinking like a CEO, David said. Which is convenient because I've been talking to the board about exactly that. This company has grown beyond what I can manage alone. I need a co-founder, someone who understands product and vision and building teams. I was going to ask if you'd be interested in the role. Co-founder of Axiom. Equity. That could actually mean something. The chance to build a company the right way from the ground up. Yes, I said immediately. Absolutely yes. The next year was intense, and David and I restructured Axiom's leadership, brought in experienced executives to handle operations and sales, and focused the company's entire strategy around becoming the dominant player in cloud management. We raised a serious funding round, $40 million from investors who saw what we were building. Catalyst evolved. We added features, expanded integrations, improved performance. We hired aggressively, building teams in product, engineering, sales, and support. Many of our hires came from Meridian, talented people who'd left during Victoria's tenure or the chaos that followed. We passed Meridian's market share 18 months after Catalyst's launch. We became the preferred cloud management platform for enterprises. Tech publications wrote case studies about our rise and Meridian's decline. Meridian never fully recovered. John did his best, but the damage was too deep. They'd lost too many good people, too much customer trust. 2 years after Victoria's departure, Meridian was acquired by a larger software company for a fraction of what they'd once been worth. The CloudSync Pro product line was absorbed and eventually discontinued. All those years of work, of innovation, of building something meaningful, it became a footnote in someone else's portfolio. I could have felt vindicated. I could have celebrated their demise as proof that I'd been right all along, but I didn't. I felt sad for everyone who'd poured their lives into that company, everyone who'd believed in what we were building together. The difference between Meridian's fate and Axiom's success wasn't about talent or technology. It was about values. Victoria had valued efficiency over innovation, short-term profits over long-term growth, spreadsheets over people. Those choices had consequences. Axiom valued the opposite things. We invested in our people. We took risks on innovative ideas. We built for the long term. And we succeeded because of it, not despite it. 5 years after I left Meridian, Axiom went public. The IPO valued the company at $1.2 billion. My equity stake made me wealthy beyond anything I'd imagined when I was coding that first CloudSync Pro prototype in my garage. But the money wasn't the victory. The victory was building something that mattered with people who valued that work. The victory was proving that you don't have to sacrifice innovation for profits, that you can build a successful company without treating people as disposable resources. The victory was looking back at that moment when I lost everything and realizing it was actually the beginning of something better. I saw Victoria once more, years after everything had settled. I was speaking at a tech conference about innovation culture and sustainable growth. She was in the audience, probably there for networking. Our eyes met for a moment. She looked away first. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt nothing. She was irrelevant to my story now, a brief antagonist in a much larger journey. After my talk, several young professionals approached me for advice. One of them, a woman in her late 20s, told me she'd just been fired from a job she loved. "I don't know what to do," she said. "I gave them everything and they just threw me away." I understood exactly how she felt. "Here's what you do," I told her. "You take time to grieve, because loss is real even when it's a job. Then you take stock of what you learned, what you're good at, what matters to you. Then you build something better, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. The revenge isn't destroying them. The revenge is succeeding without them." She thanked me and I watched her walk away, hoping she'd find her own path forward. Looking back now, I can see the whole arc clearly. The betrayal that felt like the end was actually a liberation. Being forced out of Meridian freed me from the comfortable prison I'd built for myself, the identity tied to a single company, the belief that my worth was determined by a title and a salary. I lost everything to the company. Then I built something better and won it back on my own terms. And not the company itself, which I never wanted again, but the confidence, the purpose, the proof that I could create value anywhere. The real victory wasn't defeating Meridian or Victoria. It was rediscovering who I was beyond that building, that title, that identity I'd clung to for so long. It was learning that losing everything doesn't mean you have nothing. Sometimes it means you finally have space to build something true. Sarah tells me I'm happier now than I was during my entire time at Meridian. She's right. I work hard, but I'm present. I'm engaged with my family. I sleep well at night, knowing that the company I'm building values the same things I do. Emma, who's in high school now, asked me recently what I learned from everything that happened. I thought about it for a while before answering. Jen, I learned that your value isn't determined by whether someone chooses to see it, I told her. I learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually redirecting you towards something better. And I learned that the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. It's building a life so fulfilling that they become irrelevant to your happiness. She nodded thoughtfully. So you're saying you're glad it happened? I'm saying I'm glad where it led me, I said. The pain was real, the loss was real, but it pushed me to grow in ways I never would have if everything had stayed comfortable. That's the truth people don't tell you about workplace betrayal, about being cast aside by people you trusted. It devastates you. It breaks something inside you that takes a long time to repair, but if you can survive it, if you can channel that pain into purpose instead of bitterness, you can build something more meaningful than what you lost. I don't check Meridian's news anymore. I don't think about Victoria or Brandon or any of them. They're ghosts from a previous life, shadows that have no power over my present. Instead, I focus on Axiom, on the team we're building, on the products we're creating, on the culture we're nurturing. I focus on being the kind of leader I wish I'd had, the kind who values people over profits, innovation over efficiency, long-term vision over quarterly results. And when I mentor young professionals now, when they ask me how to succeed in tech, I tell them the truth. Work hard, stay curious, build things that matter, value people, and remember that your career will have setbacks, betrayals, the moments when you lose everything you thought defined you. Those moments aren't endings, they're beginnings if you're brave enough to see them that way. I lost everything to the company. Then I won it back by building something better. Not for revenge, though that was sweet in its own way, but because I finally understood that the only validation that matters is your own, the only success worth pursuing is work you believe in, and the only way to truly win is to become someone you're proud to be. That's a victory no company can take away from you. That's a victory that lasts. If you've ever been betrayed at work, you're not alone. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments, subscribe to Office Revenge Hub for more powerful workplace revenge stories.